Law professor, legal analyst, and constitutional law expert. Her book is What You Need to Know About Voting and Why, and she joins us now. Good morning, Kim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kim, we've heard so much about concerns about voter fraud and fake drop boxes, maybe people submitting multiple ballots. How widespread has this issue been before?
Well, we are seeing in a pandemic a lot of changes across the country to accommodate easier voting. And so the changes are new and the states are having to adapt to them. That being said, voter fraud is empirically very, very rare. The military has been voting by mail overseas since the 1980s through legislation signed by Republican President Ronald Reagan. So a lot of what gets lumped into this concept of fraud is actually just administrative error, because these are complicated, difficult processes to pull off an election. And now states are having to do two elections, essentially, one in person on November 3rd, and then one in advance through mail-in balloting.
What about voter suppression? How prevalent is that?
Well, voter suppression, of course, goes as far back as the framing of the United States Constitution itself, when we were basically founded on a regime of slavery. And so it was with the 15th Amendment that formerly enslaved males were brought into the voting tent. But once that happened, states started to basically make up arbitrary rules to keep them from the polls, even if they had a constitutional right. So in the 1960s, the United States Congress passed what's called the Voting Rights Act that basically made it a lot harder for states to erect arbitrary barriers to voting. Fast forward to 2013, the Supreme Court basically struck down an important part of the Voting Rights Act. So now we're just seeing a lot of, arbitrary rules again. So in Texas, for example, fights, frankly, from the Republican side of the aisle to make it hard to have a lot of drop boxes. So one drop box per county. Not a lot of sort of election administration rationale for that. It really does look like an ability or an effort to keep people from voting. The long lines we saw in Georgia, 11 hours to vote early. One would say, listen, you need to open more access, make it more easier. Anytime it's not easy for people to vote, particularly in areas with a high low income or people, African-American population, that's voter suppression.
When you look at the number of people that will probably submit mail-in ballots, I imagine it's going to be well into the millions. What would you recommend a voter do? Because we've heard some talk from some politicians that they are questioning the validity of some mail-in ballots, perhaps. So would you recommend, hey, you go, just drop it off in your local post office, or do you go to an official, make sure it's an official drop box? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, over the summer when we had primaries, 550,000 mail-in ballots were disqualified, primarily for two reasons. One is what you indicate, delays in the Postal Service. So early is the way to go. I would not leave it close to election day to pop it in the mail, because it could be disqualified on that basis. The other reason, as I indicated, a lot of these systems are new due to COVID. The other reason ballots are disqualified by mail is because people don't follow the directions, and you're not in the ballot, you're not in the polling place with a poll worker who can explain how to do it, can double check things are done well. So if you're voting by mail, absolutely read every single word extremely carefully, double check, make sure you're signing where you need to sign, maybe have a friend look at it to make sure it's completely accurate. I did personally drop off my ballot in a ballot box yesterday. I was really proud to do it. So if you have that option, yes, do that. You can also drop it off at an election official site or at the ballot site. I think all of those methods are a little bit safer than popping it in the mail. But if all else fails, yes, please put it in the mail. The last thing we want to do is not vote. I'd rather see people vote early through the mail than not vote at all, because they don't want to face lines or whatever the other challenges that frankly happen in certain parts of the country for voting.
So Kim, on the morning after election night, we may not know a winner. We may not know the day after that or the day after that. So what is a situation that you would see this maybe going to the courts, and how would that play out?
So every state has a process for challenging the election results, and usually it requires sort of a very slim margin. But if any of those are triggered, for example, if someone were to challenge mail-in balloting process, that's when it would go to the courts, and that's where it can get a little bit tricky. So the way to avoid that, frankly, is huge margins. A lot of voters and a very, very clear winner. We are not going to know November 3rd, in part because some of the critical battleground states under state law, can't even begin to count ballots until Election Day. So we do need to be patient in that regard. But if things go to the courts, that could slow things down. And under federal law, the legislatures, frankly, can decide by December 8th to give their electors one way or the other, regardless of the popular vote under federal law. So it really is important, I think, for voters to get out in droves, make their voices heard, so that we don't get into these tricky legal battles that could delay things and throw us into a contested election.
Kim Whaley, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Kim Whaley's book is What You Need to Know About Voting and Why.
Send a note